Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting for the Oxnard Public Works and Transportation Committee for April 22nd, 2025. Madam Clerk, may we have the roll call and posting of the agenda followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll take a moment of silence for the Pope.
Chair MacArthur,
Here.
Committee Member Basua,
Here.
Committee Member Teran.
Here.
The agenda for this meeting was posted in the kiosk at City Hall, the Oxnard Public Library, the city administrative offices, and on the city's website on Tuesday, April 15th. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone stand. Mayor Pro Tem, you want to lead us on the pledge? Okay.
Stand, face the flag, right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll move right into public comment. Madam Clerk, are there any public speakers for items not on the agenda?
Chair MacArthur, we do not have any public speakers in person or virtually for items not on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and the only item here is the approval of the minutes for the April 28th, 2025 Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting. Do any members have any questions or comments? If not, can we move to approve this item? Any speakers on the consent agenda?
Chair MacArthur, we do not have any public speakers virtually or in person for the information and consent agenda. Thank you.
Mayor, I will move to accept the minutes as presented.
I will second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, the vote?
Committee Member Teran,
Yes.
Committee Member Basua,
Aye.
Chair MacArthur,
Yes.
and the motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to item D1 on the agenda. It's from Public Works. Subject Senate Bill 1, SB 1, Local Streets and Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Account. Project list for fiscal year 2025-26. The recommended action is that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution to, 1, adopt the fiscal year 2025-26 project list of Senate Bill 1, SB 1, proposed projects that will be funded in part or solely with road maintenance and rehabilitation account revenues. And 2, authorize the city manager to take whatever actions are necessary to appropriately carry out the purpose and intent of the resolution. And Mr. Michael Wolf is the Public Works Director here, available to answer any questions. There he is right here. But, Madam Clerk, are there any speakers on this item before we?
Chair MacArthur, we do not have any public speakers on this item virtually or in person. Thank you.
Mr. Casey, I'm sorry, I'm looking up. Director Wolf, the handsome guy over there. Mr. Esser, can we, I'm sure the Mayor Pro Tem would just like just an overview of what SB 1 entails and what we're doing here.
Certainly. Good evening, Chair and committee members. Morgan Kessler, City Engineer for the City of Oxnard. Yes, so this item in front of you has to do with it ultimately has to do with Senate Bill 1, which was passed by the state in 2017, which provides funding generally for California infrastructure projects. The road maintenance and rehabilitation account is sort of a sub-program, I guess, of SB 1 that provides money on a formula basis to agencies within California. It's directed towards road maintenance and road construction activities. So every year since 2017, Oxnard has received funding through the RMRA program. And as a requirement by law, the city staff that are, well, the city essentially needs to bring before their governing body a resolution, and that resolution is in this report packet, stating all the things that, well, frankly, that the RMRA program wants us to say. So this year, the city of Oxnard is receiving about $5.3 million in RMRA funding, and this money will be directed to essentially two programs within the Public Works Department. The first is can be considered our operational projects, which is things like maintenance of streets, pothole repair, traffic signal infrastructure repair, and things like that. We also under the operational piece of it is what we fund our pavement maintenance program with, which includes our contractor who does our city street yearly inspections and provides essentially what this body has heard many times is our PCI for all our pavement condition index for all of our city streets. As far as CIP projects, this money is also directed towards, well, for this year, we're planning it be directed towards two CIP projects. The first is titled the Neighborhood Street Resurfacing Project, and the second is the Arterial Street Resurfacing Project. And the Neighborhood Street Resurfacing Project mainly addresses just what it says. It's the residential streets within the city. The Arterial Street Resurfacing Project addresses the higher capacity streets. You know, think of, say, Ventura Road and Oxnard Boulevard. So, and a map is included in the council packet or in the committee packet that shows where our present plan is to use the money for our arterial streets in our neighborhood program. It also shows past projects that have used the money as well. So essentially this is kind of a regulatory statutory exercise that we do every year to receive these funds, and it involves adopting the resolution.
Thank you. Any questions? Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kessler, for the overview on that. I have just two items I'd like to touch on. The first, as referenced in the staff report and in the presentation, is around the methodology on how these particular roads or streets are eligible or part of this this effort. And I'm just wondering if we can speak to that a little bit on the methodology, whether it be yourself or Mr. Wolf to speak to that. So we don't just throw darts at a map of the city and say that's where we're going to pave next. There's actually, when we look at funding these efforts, that there is some methodology that is, I guess, a requirement of these funds. Is that correct?
Yeah, certainly. I could speak to how we select our streets for, say our paving priority. I mentioned a little bit ago that we have a sort of a database of all of the street segments within Oxnard cataloged, and they're monitored completely every 3 years, but a section is done, a section is inspected once a year, and after 3 years, the whole city network is inspected. that information is put into a computer application called Street Saver. It's an application that, well, every city I know of, especially in the West, uses it. It produces among other things, it produces a pavement condition for each street segment. The acronym's the PCI. It's a 0 to 100 scale, 0 being, I don't know, dirt, and 100 being a freshly reconstructed roadway. So I say all of that because the PCI is very important to us in establishing the priority list, I guess, of when a street should be paved. Last year, around this time, I guess, I think it was April 2nd, Director Wolf and I brought before the City Council our 5-phased paving program, and that established a based on our funding availability, we batched all of Oxnard's priority paving needs into 5 batches. You could sort of think of it as a 5-year paving program, but our funding is uncertain such that we decided to group the priority needs as phases. So for each one of those phases, there's a grouping of streets, and those streets are developed, they are prioritized by a whole bunch of factors. One is the PCI. Another is how much benefit that street provides relative to its traffic load and things like that. How many folks does that street serve per unit area, things like that. So, essentially that's there's a lot more to it, but just in summary, that's our document. That's kind of our navigating document that we use for the next 5 phases, if you will, for our priorities for paving all the streets.
Right. If I can add to that, just a couple more things. So the other things that we would use for prioritization, and Mr. Kessler is correct, this time last year we did bring forward to council our 5-phase plan, and in that staff report, you'll notice that PCI is pretty heavily used in terms of a weighted value for prioritization. ADT, which is the average daily traffic, is the other thing that Morgan mentioned. But we also utilize things like how many times we're out there doing pothole repair. So the idea here is if we're out there multiple times doing pothole repair, that's a very costly and temporary process. And so the idea here is trying to pave or rehab or do corrective maintenance on those streets so that we can avoid doing those costly temporary pothole repairs. So that's another weighted value that we use. And then things like closeness to schools, there are other weighted values that's in the staff report. The other thing that to take note of, and we had this long discussion last time this came to council, was we don't always look at just the low PCI. That would be, it's a little counterintuitive, and everybody would think, well, just do all the lowest PCI, and that should be your gauge. And the issue there is that we'll never catch up if we do that. And it's because of 2 things. Pavement does not degrade exponentially or linearly, it degrades exponentially. And the cost to do preventative maintenance when the PCI is much higher is significantly less per area, whether you use square foot or square yard, is significantly less than when you do corrective maintenance in the lower PCI. So the idea here is to try to spend as much as of our dollars in the higher PCI, because then you can do more streets, you can elongate the life of those streets. And so right now, because we have, the last report was about $200 million worth of deferred maintenance in our streets, we're going to have to catch up. And so the way we have identified this is we're doing about 75% corrective maintenance, but we still are identifying about 25% preventative maintenance. And in fact, in the last staff report that we took to council for awarding our neighborhood paving, we made mention of that. I think it was about 24% of that work was preventative maintenance. Again, the idea here is that that's a much lower cost of maintenance and allows us to elongate the life of that street at a much lower cost. It's typically about a 6-to-1 ratio in terms of the cost of that. And so some people will look at us or look at the activities that are going on and wonder why we're doing maintenance on a certain street when the other one may have a lower PCI. And the idea there is, you're extending the life, and Morgan, I love this phrase that Morgan uses, keeping good streets good. And the idea there is, if we don't do that, we'll fall behind even more. And so that's part of this process, is that to identify through, Street Saver helps us with that, but also identify it through that process by which we still want to do a ratio of preventative and corrective maintenance. Now, as we get further along in our PCI, for the last couple of years, our PCI has marched up from 63 to 67. As we get further up in the PCI, then we can start transitioning that ratio to something different. I mean, we should be looking at a ratio that's just the opposite of that, 75% preventative maintenance and 25% corrective. Eventually, as our PCI gets up higher, we can get to that point, and that allows us to extend those dollars much, much further. So you can do a lot more lane miles of preventative work at a lower cost, and you can get to more street segments per year when you do that. So that's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to get to something that is heavily on the preventative side and less on the corrective. But we need to get there by getting out of our PCIs in the 60s. We need to get in the 70s and 80s. So I just wanted to add that.
No, thank you for that. And in the Health and Human Services field, the similar comparison to that is for every dollar you spend on prevention, you save $7 to $13 in downstream funding for health issues and cost to our healthcare system and cost to the juvenile justice system and the justice system and things like that. So I see a definite parallel in that. And I was trying to think of an example, to hammer it home for folks. And I would imagine that if you need new tires in your car, but they're still good for another 6 months or a year, you need new tires, but it doesn't mean you stop changing the oil on your engine, because that'd be a more costly repair if something went wrong on that. But no, I always say the word, or I struggle with the word Sisyphean, effort, where you're pushing the boulder and it never ends, right? If we're just doing low PCI streets all the time, because you're never going to catch up, and then the good streets don't stay good streets if you ignore them, correct?
Yeah, and I always think about kind of maintaining your teeth. If you only went to the dentist to have them repair when it has a cavity instead of doing sort of the preventative work, you're just going to be losing your teeth all the time. So
I like your metaphor better. So my last thing, Mr. Kessler, and I asked Diego to have a map queued up, and I recognize that Measure M is a thing, and I cannot in good faith talk about a visual, and I just have too much respect for the public to just talk about a map. I know in the past I asked the city treasurer to verbally describe a bar graph that he had in his presentation without recreating it, and that was quite the effort to describe to people audibly what a bar graph looks like. So in this map, and again, thank you for providing it, the one question I have when we look at the key for neighborhood street resurfacing is the area there highlighted, is that the Colonia neighborhood? In green, excuse me. Yes,
correct.
In green.
That is the Colonia neighborhood.
And we spoke to that previously, just in case anyone brings it up about, well, I thought this was going to happen. Why hasn't it happened yet? And it's been delayed by some technical items with property owners, but the work is still in the queue, correct? To happen in a future phase?
in fact, it's already out to bid. So
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
That's right.
So the one thing that Morgan mentioned, and maybe a little more clarification, what the resolution and the RMRA requirements are, we have to list any of the existing segments that still have RMRA funding. So that's why you see some of the existing street segments that are on there, plus the new ones. So it's a requirement of the RMRA to list both the existing streets that are still going to get RMRA funding and any new streets. So it's kind of forwards and backwards on that list as well.
Okay.
Yeah, another way to think about it is that the RMRA funding cycle doesn't necessarily follow our phasing of projects. So there's a little bit still behind that we, haven't used yet, and then we have our forward-looking projects as well.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you, Diego, for putting the map up there. Again, I know Measure M prohibits the reenactment. I don't think we did a reenactment here, but I thought the public deserved to see this visual that you all put time to put into the staff report and in the presentation. And so I just wanted them to have that visual on the record of what we're referring to. And if folks want to go to district attorney, that's fine. They know where to find me. So, all right. Thank you, Mayor. That's my questions and comments.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem. Councilwoman, anything?
I've got no questions, thank you.
Thank you. I'm satisfied. I'm prepared to move this item and adopt the resolution as recommended by staff. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam. Madam Clerk?
Committee Member Basua?
Aye.
Committee Member Teran?
Yes.
Chair MacArthur?
Yes.
And the motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to the next item on the agenda. This is item D2, mid-cycle update to the 5-year capital improvement program for fiscal years 2025 through 2029. The recommendation is that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council, forgive me for that, one, approve and adopt updates to the 2025 through 2029 City of Oxnard 5-year capital improvement program. 2, approve project budget appropriations of $1,300,000 in fiscal year 2024-2025, consisting of $250,000 from the Circulation System Improvement Fee Fund, available fund balance for the 5 Points Intersection Improvements Project, and $1,050,000 from the Facilities Maintenance Internal Fees Fund, available fund balance for the Elevator Modernization Project, as well as the corresponding capital outlay fund, appropriation increase in the same amounts as noted in the financial impact section. 3, approve a project budget appropriation transfer of $201,375 from existing Culture and Community Services General Fund operating budget to the Elevator Modernization Project, as well as the corresponding capital outlay fund appropriation, the same amount as noted in the financial impact section. And lastly, approve project budget unappropriations from various funds and some funds as noted in the financial impact section, and approve the updates to the fiscal year 2025-26 capital improvement program. And Morgan and Mr. Wolf are here to talk about that further. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments on this section?
Chair MacArthur, we do not have any public speakers virtually or in person for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, do you want just a summary from staff on this item? Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. Once again, Morgan Kessler, City Engineer. So our capital improvement program is on a 2-year cycle, which means every 2 years we completely take a new look at the existing one and revamp it, completely reassess it. This last occurred in June, I believe, 2024. Yeah, June of 2024. So we're kind of halfway through the 2-year CIP cycle. It's a 5-year CIP. Projects are programmed across a 5-year horizon. This one is 2025 to 2029. So where we're at with this mid-year update or mid-cycle update is just that. We're halfway through, the main CIP cycle. So we what this is sort of a opportunity to, for one, to provide any tweaks or updates to existing projects, which takes the form of, adjusting budgets for that project or adjusting when those budgets are spent across the 5-year horizon or program to be spent. It's also an opportunity to add any new projects that, probably shouldn't or preferably not to wait to be programmed at the time of the full 2-year cycle, every 2-year cycle. So what you have before you is just that. We are at the mid-cycle for our current CIP, and we, my staff and myself, hold all departments at the city that have had a CIP listed and ask, we queried if you have any changes you would like to make to memorialize to your projects as part of the CIP update. We also asked if you had any new projects that you would like to program now as opposed to about 12 months from now when we once again do the full 2-year cycle. So in this update, we made, let's see, about 32 changes to the existing project's budget and or schedule or description. And we added 8 new projects that have identified funding and 3 projects that are newly identified but don't have any funding associated with them. And I'm happy to address any of those projects in further detail. I also have some of, we have folks here, staff that could answer particular questions about the budget or their department's specific project. We've also listed in this report projects that we've completed since this time last year, or since June 4th of last year, and also included some information on what exactly was moved around or reprogrammed per each project under the financial impact section.
Thank you. Any questions from any committee member? Airport Chair, go ahead.
Thank you. Just 2 quick things. Both of them related to some District 2 items and probably some that span beyond that, I'm sure. But just wanted to give thanks. I see Mr. Hallett is here. I note that on the items pertaining to playgrounds within CFD 5 in River Park, it does reflect the community feedback from residents of CFD 5 regarding their playground assessments, and deferring that a little bit to see where they are, the lifespan of them, and don't necessarily have to dedicate funds in the coming fiscal year or the current CIP cycle to that at this time. So just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you for you and Anthony Miller for having the open ear to what the residents were requesting and having that funding being used for some other items that are important to them. So the question I have is regarding item number, in table 2 on the staff report, the new projects with identified funding, item 2, the advanced alley maintenance program. And I have a thought about what this might be, but I would just like a little bit more information on it. I suspect there's 2 alleys I'm thinking of in District 2 that might have already seen work like this. But Do we have someone who can speak a little bit to the effort there?
I'll start this off. Yes, the Advanced Alley Maintenance Program is a new project, AMP, I guess, if you will. We didn't make that up. It just kind of fell out of the name. So, it's probably no mystery to this committee that Oxnard's alleys, generally speaking, are in pretty degraded condition. And we have a priority list for their reconstruction and restoration. Right now, we have every year we bid an alleyway reconstruction program as one of our CIP projects. And the scope of that project is, as you've likely seen going on around town, we just finished up a project, is the complete removal of the old alleyway paving, usually reconstruction of the drainage facilities that are out there, and replacing what was probably asphalt or macadam in the past with Portland cement concrete, like sidewalk concrete. That's kind of our gold standard, if you will. That's for the worst of the worst on our priority list, but there's a lot of bad alleyways. What we continue to do is we do varying levels of, I'll say, spot repair, although the streets department does a nice version of what I call a thin overlay, where they come through with alleyways and patch the bad potholes, if you will. And then once those potholes are filled, they go over the entire width and length of the alley with a thin asphalt overlay. It's a good repair, but it's not going to last as long as the Portland cement concrete reconstruction. But that's really the extremes we have up until now for repair. The Advanced Alley Maintenance Program's intent is sort of a stopgap measure which provides a better than the maintenance treatments that I just described, and keep the alley together such that it's usable and functional and in fairly good shape until its number comes up in our priority list where it could be fully reconstructed with Portland cement concrete. So it's a intermediate fix, if you will. It will provide a good surface. Essentially what's involved is milling or digging out, the real bad structural failures. Sometimes they show up as potholes. Sometimes it looks like the back of an alligator's skin, where there's all kinds of little chunks of asphalt. We'll dig those out. We'll repair those with asphalt. And then we'll go over the top of it all with a treatment that we sometimes call a cape seal. It's a two-step process where we put a traditional chip seal down, and then we go over the top of that with a microsurfacing or a slurry seal, which gives it even more resistance to wearing out and also provides a nicer riding surface.
Thank you, and I appreciate the explanation on that. I noted that in the alley between the streets of Palm and Beverly, off of Ventura Road, it seems that what you just described is a repair that they received there, and I believe the other place that I noted is on Craig Drive over on off of St. Mary's Drive near Vineyard, and you can see that what used to be kind of you had to drive like this to get through the alley due to the potholes or the degradation that had happened. Now it's kind of the center has all been paved over with, as you mentioned, I guess that would be microsurfacing. But it certainly looks nice, but you can tell that it's not meant to be the final repair. And I had residents ask me about it, saying, "Oh, what what is this? Is this what we're getting instead of the cement? I said, no. That'll come later. I'm assuming that your alley had so many reports, or when they assessed it for 311 reports, that there were just so many potholes that this was what the Public Works Department elected to do. And essentially it was the length of the alley and the center line minus maybe a foot and a half on either side. So I appreciate the explanation on that, and anything we can do to support alley reconstruction, I'm all about that. As you mentioned, Mr. Kessler, we have quite a few alleys that have been waiting a long time, and I appreciate the patching that's happening and now this advanced maintenance program. But I'm sure we'll get there, when their number's up, as you had mentioned, in a good way. So, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilwoman, go ahead.
Thank you. I actually do want, let me go back to where I need to. Want to talk about the unfunded projects. And just so, Table 2, page 46, new projects new projects unfounded, Table 3. So one of my biggest concern has always been public safety. And with that comes lighting. And I see that on Bard Road, number 3, additional street lightings from Saviors to Road. The project description says add additional street lighting to supplement existing SCE-owned lights. Rough order of magnitude cost, $750,000. Project funding unidentified. There is also number 1, which is citywide street lighting repair. And I see that that's at $12 million. Obviously, that is a big amount, but a priority for me is street lighting due to safety concerns. I would like to see if there is, when we see the budget, when this time around, how much maybe we can invest. I'm just asking for us to crawl, not to walk. Just start with a little bit, kind of figure out which ones really need to be repaired. And if we can do repairs instead of replacement, that would be something that I would like to see. With this in mind, I know that in 2024, City Council made it a priority for the South Oxnard Library lighting. If I can just get an update on that and whether or not that is still a priority or where we're at with that project.
Certainly, I can update you on that. It is our, it's actually, if you'll recall from the CIP meeting back in June, it became our number 1 CIP project. I got an update just this evening from the project manager on that project, and we have we've just secured the design consultant for that who will be doing the technical design for it. Imagine there's probably 2 months, maybe 3 months worth of design work in that, and then we can go right into construction once we have a design.
Yeah, thank you. I know that the South Oxnard Library parking lot is in great need of this new lighting, and I know they've been vandalized, and it's beyond our control when that happens. But I love the alleys, but I think I love the lighting better. So, and that's just my personal opinion. I just think with safety, people walking, that lighting is just extremely important. And I understand we can't. It is a lot of money, and I appreciate staff putting this forward in their CIP, but I'd like to see if we can just crawl, little by little to try to improve the lighting throughout the city. Other than that, I'm good.
If I can add just some context to both those projects. So the first one on that list, which is the citywide street light repair, there are some street lights that the city owns. And those street segments that are listed there are the ones that, they're typically called LS3. It's a tariff that Edison puts forward. Those are the lights that we own. But the majority of the street lights that are on city streets are actually owned and maintained by Edison. So this is a list here of the ones that the city owns. And some of these street segments actually have, in addition to this city-owned streetlights, have Edison-owned streetlights. So these aren't the only streetlights on those segments. So Oxnard Boulevard, for example, when you go down Oxnard Boulevard, the ones in the median are city-owned streetlights, but the ones that are on the side are Edison-owned. So there are streetlights on those segments. The one on Bard came as part of a conversation with the neighborhood council and the council member from that district. When the initial investigation of the Edison-owned streetlights, those aren't city-owned streetlights on Bard, those are Edison-owned streetlights. The majority of those streetlights are spaced per our standard. And we have a standard, for example, if a new development would to come in, let's use Teal Club as the example. Teal Club would have to put streetlights at a spacing per our standard. The majority of the streetlights on Bard at that segment meet our standard. So there are streetlights on Bard, and most of them meet our standard. This was a request to add more than what would be our standard spacing of streetlights. There are some areas of Bard that exceed our standard by a little bit. So this was that request. I just wanted to make sure there's more context. It's not that they don't have lights on there. It's not like the other segments don't have lights. It's just that this was a request for additional lighting, more than what our standard would typically dictate.
And thank you for that explanation. I was aware that there has been a push from, I believe it's Blackstock, to get additional streetlights. I would like to start with fixing streetlights that are not working before we add. And also, how many of our streetlights have gone into LED? Because, I mean, a lot of our streetlights, would it benefit the city to retrofit them in order to give more lighting? That might be an option before we start adding. And again, I don't know, I'm just talking, just to talk. But maybe retrofitting some of our lights would be beneficial.
So all the Edison-owned streetlights that were high-pressure sodium were transferred to LED. And if they're not, anybody can let us know, and we will make sure that those get transferred. So any Edison-owned streetlight, in fact, we found a couple in an alley in South Oxnard that didn't get transferred to LED, and one of them got transferred to LED, and we'll get the other one transferred. So all Edison-owned streetlights should be LED streetlights, and if they're not, we can be notified, and we'll notify Edison, and we'll get that addressed. For city-owned streetlights, that's our process, and we can work with either Edison or on our own when we either make repairs or if they're operational, we can then transition those over to LED as part of that first project on the list.
Yeah, and Mr. Wolf, could the city benefit from a city-owned street light survey to understand how many of our lights have not gone to LED, and whether or not, if we go to LED, would we have enough savings to pay for retrofitting our lights? I mean, I understand it would be over a period of 10, 15 years, some savings, but have we ever had a study in regards to, how many lights would benefit from this and whether or not we would have energy savings?
So we do have in our GIS some level of asset information. We are working through what's called EAM, our Enterprise Asset Management System, and part of that will be inventorying our assets. So I don't feel comfortable that we have an exact accounting of all of our city-owned streetlights. I mean, this is something that probably should have been around for 25 years. That's probably generous, probably more like 30 years. So I don't have the answer to that question. The second part of your question, though, is yes, transitioning from high-pressure sodium to LED saves money. If we just use the Edison LS1 option E, as the example, that's the transition from high-pressure sodium of their own Edison-owned streetlights from high-pressure sodium to LED. Their return on investment was like a 7 to 8 to 9 year payback, and you pay that back on your actual bill. So there is a return on investment for that, depending on the type of tariff, right? So not to get too far in the details, but some streetlights are on a tariff where they don't actually charge you for the time. They charge you for regardless of whether the light is on or off. It's a LS1 tariff. Meaning it's not metered. It's not a metered system. LS2 and LS3 is a different tariff, whether it's metered or unmetered. And so depending on those types of tariffs or rates will dictate whether or not the payback is a certain amount of time. So yes, it uses less energy. Yes, it's reduces our operational budget. And yes, there's a payback for transitioning from high-pressure sodium to LED. It's not 1 or 2 years. It could be,
Yeah, multiple.
10-ish years, but there's certainly
10 to 20 years.
Yeah, there certainly is. But we did a analysis of, I believe it's Oxnard Boulevard from 3rd to 9th. We actually had staff walk that, and it's not just the transition from high-pressure sodium to LED. There are pedestals missing. The structural component is been hit so many times by traffic accidents. The meter is missing. The conduit has been compromised. So there's a lot of work to actually get them just to be transitioned to LED. So it's a big task.
No, I totally understand, just kind of throwing ideas out there. Again, I'm just gonna reiterate, broken record, the lighting has always been, a priority for me, just for safety reasons, people walking, just, vandalism and everything in between. So I was just hoping if we can get creative, if we can just, again, crawl, baby steps. And those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. On the, just a quick question on the elevator modernization. I didn't see, and I don't know if it's the elevator, I'm being told, at the golf course is not working and has been working since 2024, according to the staff there. Just wondering if that's on the radar there to make improvements or fix it.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. Steve Hallett, Assistant Public Works Director. In regards to the golf operations, the golf course is taking care of that elevator separate from the CIP, so they are working on it right now. They have solicited for bids. They selected actually our current elevator contractor that we're using for the city facilities as the lowest responsive bidder. And so they've put together a package that they will be paying through the golf operations.
Oh, wonderful.
And just to clarify, the golf operations is an enterprise fund, so we don't cross those streams in terms of the funding sources there.
Wonderful. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you.
Correct.
That's the only question I have. Anything that improves our city. So I'm in full support of accepting the recommendation. And I want to move that item forward. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Oh, wonderful. Madam Clerk, can I call for the vote on this?
Committee Member Teran,
Yes.
Committee Member Basua,
Aye.
Chair MacArthur,
Yes.
and the motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Is there any committee members have an item for a future agenda? And if not, then without any further business, yes, go ahead, Mayor Portengo.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely.
I don't have an item for future agenda, but this is somewhat germane to this committee as well as the next committee. Well, we had the third committee. So just a reminder for the public that tomorrow, Wednesday, April 23rd at 6:30 p.m., there will be a town hall meeting for districts 1 and 2 for California's updated fire hazard severity zone maps. And this is from CAL FIRE. It's a public meeting. It'll be held at Rio del Norte Elementary School in the South Bank neighborhood. So again, that's tomorrow, 6:30 PM, Rio del Norte, and it's for the updated CAL FIRE maps. So just wanted to remind folks of that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for that reminder. And if there are no further business on the agenda, without objection, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.